When it comes to the Transformers collecting community, it seems to be a clear dividing line between collectors, and that dividing line is 2007, the live action movie that kind of separates the G1ers from the new collectors. There are collectors that collect G1 only, there are collectors that collect pretty much everything under the sun, and then there are the Bayverse collectors. And most of the Bayverse collectors do have some appreciation for G1 because that's where their beloved franchise started. But there's a small percentage of them that absolutely hate G1, and guess what? I truly understand why. I'm going to explain that in terms that G1ers like me will understand coming up. So before I get into the points why there are Transformer collectors that absolutely, completely hate G1, I gotta frame this in sort of an 80s mind frame. In 1989, we had the Michael Keaton Batman movie that came out. That was my favorite Batman movie of all time, and that's my Batmobile. That's my Batman. I loved it. I was infatuated with Batman all year, and it was a great Christmas. But I do want to point out that I did go back and try to watch some of the Adam West Batman, and it wasn't the same. I didn't hate it, but I was like, this is not for me. The Adam West Batman is not for me. I appreciate it for what it was, but I wanted to move forward. I wanted modern. I wanted what I felt was more visually stimulating. The same thing can be said about Star Trek. I liked The Next Generation better. That was my Star Trek. I still appreciated the originals. I still watched the originals, but at the end of the day, I felt like I really enjoyed The Next Generation more. I felt like it was a modern interpretation. It was a better interpretation, and it was a much cleaner, sleeker look, in my opinion. Same thing can be said about G.I. Joe. 1984 was my G.I. Joe. I didn't really care about the 60s, the original G.I. Joe, but there is no hate for them. That's just not what I collect. So getting into the first point I want to discuss is that the Bayverse collectors are collecting something that's new, more modern, more hip. They're collecting something that is more visually interesting and appealing to them. And the new designs, there is more to look at. At this picture here, side by side, of Optimus Prime versus Optimus Prime 1984 versus 2007. There's more parts and pieces going on here. Also, you can also discuss the fact that is it more interesting to look at the movie designs? Well, if you are part of the crowd that collects G1 and they like the line work in their G1 figure and they don't want it super hyper tuned, then I guess you're part of the crowd that actually says that these look better. More line work, more detail, more stuff going on is a more visually stimulating aesthetic. You also have to understand that Bayverse collectors are going to have a more modern style of car. They're not going to be collecting stuff that is from the 80s, and a lot of those designs were from the 70s, and based on older vehicles, they want the modern aesthetic of car that they see on the roads today, the cars that are coming out today, and the ones that are more visually interesting. I'll have to say that I agree that the Bayverse designs, the 2007 movie designs, and kind of going forward, make a little bit more sense. Also, they're more relevant, as I very seldom see a cab-over type of truck on the road, but I see these all of the time, and it sort of makes sense. So that's kind of one of the points, and that makes sense to these Bayverse collectors. So that's not enough to make any collectors hate G1, but I gotta tell you that this next point here is one that starts to be a little irritating. If you're a collector of the MPM movie line, and you start to notice that looking at Takara and basing this off purely off of Wiki.com, the Wiki Transformers, that there have been 54 different versions of figures made for G1 and only 12 for the Masterpiece movie line. So that's 54 versus 12. Now this 54 doesn't include a slew of repaints, but it also does include like the handful of Beast Wars they've made. So looking at that, that's still a massive difference, even considering the movie line started in around 02, 03, so a few years before even the 2007 movies came out. Considering that, that's still a huge variation in the quantity produced. So the next thing that kind of irritates some of these these Bayverse collectors is the fact that the mainline has really been G1 focused for the last few years. You can even argue since they came out with Combiner Wars, very G1, even the 30th anniversary, the Thrilling 30 back then, there was a lot of G1 going on, but it was completely reinvented with Siege, moved into Earthrise, moved into Kingdom, and it's still going strong. I actually predicted that they'd get away from G1 by now and getting into 2022, only making a couple of figures, and it's still extremely G1 heavy. But that's still not enough to make you hate G1, because there's still a studio series going on, right? So at least there's a line of toys that you know that you're going to get just what you're looking for. You're a Bayverse collector and you're out there getting exactly what... Wait, no you're not. Now you got to share it with G1. Now I got to say that I really didn't even consider how this made those collectors feel. I was really excited for these. These look good. The G1 representations in the studio series look good. I think it's a very flimsy excuse from Hasbro that they want to keep the studio series alive, and so they're using the 1986 movie. Most of these characters saw Season 3, several saw Season 4, quite a few of them. So the movie line, it really was meant to be just for live action movies, and they kind of squeezed in the 86, and guess what? They're going to keep it going. So that could really be frustrating to collectors, that even my own line's getting invaded by G1, and I never stopped to think about their feelings, but you know, they're already having to deal with other issues, like they can't get a triple changer made for their line. You can't get a triple changer in the studio series. Now, granted, it's the Bumblebee series. Maybe some of these Bayverse ones don't collect that, but you got to buy 2 figures to get both alt modes for this Shatter guy. And the next point, which is, it's kind of not even going chronologically here. I'm kind of jumping around chronologically, but thought-wise, G1's invaded the movies. So when you're a Bayverse collector, you're collecting live-action movie, and that was kind of what got you into it, and now it's regressing into the G1 designs because we're in the golden age of Cybertron in G1 right now, and we're moving forward with even more of these designs. I love Bumblebee movie. I love the fact they did this, but some people might not, but we'll see. But it does kind of seem like an invasion or infestation of G1 in their own turf of live action movies, and I never really thought about that. So talking about G1 haters and why they hate G1, but the point of this video isn't really that. The point of this video is that if you are a Bayverse collector, or you're in it for the new movies, the Bumblebee movies and all of that, you are entering into a really good time. We're seeing Target carry movie Masterpiece and not G1 Masterpiece. That's like a line has been drawn. They won't let us have G1 Masterpiece at Target. I'm quite envious of that, and I'm also at the same time excited for you guys. It's odd though, because Target gets them 2 months later, they're on clearance. You also have something else that's kind of lucky. Ross even got a couple of these for real cheap. We got the Ironhide one for like $40, and I'm pretty sure those sold out real fast as soon as they hit it. And I think they had Megatron for either $50 or $60. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but still some really good deals that popped up. You don't see that with some G1 Transformers around here. There are a lot of great Studio Series figures that have come out. There's more great ones on the way. So if you're collecting the Bayverse stuff, then the mainline Hasbro is going to be taking good care of you coming up. And really awesome that they put out a whole new redone version of Optimus Prime and then the Jetfire and how they connect. That is really good. And that's some awesome stuff. That's some of the stuff that I actually really like about the series. Third-party upgrade kits are available for all these, so that's really good stuff too. And you can deck out all your stuff the way you want to. They're even making box sets of say, their Devastator. You're getting box sets of Devastator. Some really good stuff going on right there. Another reason it's a great time to be a Bayverse or a movie collector, there's a ton of new companies coming out, and they're all focusing on the movies. They're focusing on the Bumblebee range of figures, but this Alien Attack Toys Gundog Hound, that's something coming out. Looks pretty close to what you'd expect. Unique toys with this amazing RO4 Nero Galvatron. That thing just looks awesome. Really a good time to be a collector of Bayverse. We got companies like Wei Zhang, which, you know, Wei Zhang is, are they defunct? Are they over? Well, they have this in stock at Show Z with. This is basically Blackout, and it's called Night Blades, and it's oversized reversion. So they're doing a lot of stuff to not call it what it is. They're trying to stay out of trouble, I guess. But it looks really good, and it's bigger. And that's what I felt this figure was too small. I felt the Studio Series one was too small. We needed an upscaled version. Visual Toys, Peru Kill, AoE Lockdown, and 2 Still Jaws for $60. That thing looks really cool. So there's a lot of cool things, and I gotta tell you, I look through these and I go, wow, that's kind of cool, and that looks even better than I remember it in the movie. And that's what's going on right now. There's so many companies making so many things for the movie series. We got Devil Savior making their Devastator, so you can get it from the Studio Series. You can get Devil Saviors or whatever you want. But I gotta say, this isn't my Devastator, but at least someone else out there has the balls to make it. So I'd like to know in the comments below, what do you collect? Are you G1 only? Are you the Omni collector that buys everything? Do you collect the Bayverse stuff from 2007 in live action movies? Do you collect the Bumblebee movie stuff only? Like, subscribe to Titanium Hanger. Out.